Hello, leaders. I thought that it would be a good thing since life is busy, and I know getting together, especially on Sunday nights, since most of our groups meet on Sunday evenings, it's just really difficult to meet. So I thought that what I would do instead of rescheduling our meeting that we postponed on Saturday, that I would shoot this video that would cover the main thing that we were going to talk about, and that's community group devotionals. Now, I'm not sure how you've been doing devotionals in your group up to this point, but I really want us to become uniformed at this point on how we do devotionals. And when we start the Gospel of John series, beginning September 11th, I have actually included 12 weeks worth of devotionals in the Gospel of John book that we have published. Now, I realize that we don't meet every week, but I'm not sure which weeks of the month that your group does meet. So this will allow your group to, regardless if you meet the first, second, third, or fourth week of the month, you will always have a devotional that will fit along with the sermon and the Bible study that you've been doing on your own. It's very important to note that how we are changing things up is we are trying to equip people in the church to be future community group leaders. And we're doing this by trying to demonstrate that leading a community group devotional does not have to be that difficult, especially with the new format that we're introducing here. Now, if you will remember, one of the key components for our community group time is to build relationships. I really see that our community group should be one of the front doors of the church. And in order for that to happen, I think that it's important that if we invite people in, that we don't have 30 minutes worth of meal and then we have an hour and a half worth of Bible study. Plus, it's really, really hard to have Bible study if you have any type of kids that are around the house. I know this from personal experience, that kids just don't want to be quiet when the Bible study happens. And so it's really hard for moms and dads to focus, especially as little ones are coming in and out of the room. And so what we've done is that I have written community group devotionals to help equip future leaders, but also to help counteract what I'm going to call the kid dilemma, and that's just the running around of kids. And so what my desire would be and what I would pray that you guys would really aim to do is that if you say you meet for 2 hours every other week, I would hope that about 30 minutes or so of that time would be devoted to devotional time and prayer time. And if you can handle it, having kids in the room is a great way, especially with how we're going to be doing devotional time. It really lends itself to kids because we're really going to be about storing the Bible. It's a hard word to say. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Up on your screen right now, I'm going to show you an example of what a community group devotional is going to look like beginning in week 1 of our series. On page 16 and 17 of your book when you get it is week 1 of our community group devotional. Now, the first thing that we're going to be talking about is community group guidelines. And I want to encourage you, every time you guys get together, before you have your devotional time, you need to go over these guidelines. And it might seem redundant at first, but the reason we do this is twofold. Number one, if we have new people that are in the group, it's important for them to know kind of what our rules are, our guidelines are for when we get together and talk about God's Word. But the second thing is it serves as a good reminder for just the people that are already established in our groups. It serves as a good reminder. And so I know you can read, but what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go ahead and read these so I can explain them to you as we go. And up on the screens, you will see the guidelines being labeled. Guideline number 1 is this. This is a safe and confidential group. We will all do our part to create an environment where everyone can be real, open, and honest with their struggles and victories. What is said in the group stays in the group. This is really important because Christians have been burned a lot, and even de-churched or lost people have been burned a lot. We share our heart, and someone turns around and shares it with someone else, and all of a sudden we feel judged, we feel betrayed. And so it's very important that we create an environment where people feel open to share. And I just want to encourage you that this will not happen overnight. It will take a long time to prove that someone can trust the group. And so continue to hammer this point home. This is a safe and confidential group. Number 2, listen well. Let's value one another during our discussions by really listening to what is being shared. Try to avoid thinking about how you're going to respond or what you're going to say next. This is really important, especially for you as the leader, because I know that when we are going around the group and we're hearing from people, we're trying to think of what our response is going to be. I want to encourage you to don't do that. Okay? Listen to what is being said. Look them in the eye. Tell everyone else to stop side conversations. If someone is open enough to share with the group, then we need to all be zeroed in on what's being said. And so we need to listen well. Number 3, allow silence. It is important to allow silence in the group as it provides an opportunity for someone to share and for members in the group to process the topic or question being considered. This is really, really important, especially in our fast food, I want it quick type of mindset. Silence is really, really hard for us, and we don't like it. But it's really important that when we're asking questions, that we allow for, we allow time for people to process the question being asked. So I would encourage you to throw a question out there and then count to 10 in your head. It could be really awkward, and I understand that, but you just never know what people are thinking about when you're asking the questions. Number 4, no crosstalk. Be considerate of others as they are sharing. No side conversations. And I know we've all been guilty of this before when someone shares and there's like 3 or 4 different conversations going on in the room. It's important, and we talked about this with number 2, listen well. It's a lot easier to listen if we're not having all these side conversations. Number 5, no fixing. We are not here to fix each other. Jesus does that part. Give encouragement, speak truth, and point to Jesus, but don't try to solve or fix each other. And this may seem counterintuitive because we're supposed to bear one another's burdens and we're supposed to be here for one another. However, I'm sure we've all been in the situations where someone has shared a real concern in their life, and the rest of the time has been spent on trying to help that one person. And a lot of times we never even get to the Bible study because we're only talking about that person. Listen, commit to pray for them. Ask if you can go for coffee at another time and you can share more with that person. This is not a time for us to fix everyone. This is a time for people to process God's word and to share. And we can't do that if we're trying to fix everyone. Number 6, we want everyone to have a chance to share. Be sensitive about the amount of time you share. It's very important that we allow everyone the opportunity to have time to be able to share what the Lord's doing in their lives or what He's speaking to them about concerning the verse that we're talking about. It's really hard to do this when one person or a couple people are monopolizing all the time. And this is really hard, especially for leaders, because this devotional time is not meant for you to lecture. It's not meant for you to preach. It's not meant for you to share the latest insight that God has given you. You are a facilitator. You are here to make sure that the conversation keeps moving. And if you're talking more than 40% of the time during the entire time, then you are talking way too much. In fact, you should probably only be talking about 25% of the entire time. And you need to make sure that there's not the other talkers in your group, and we all have them, that they're not speaking more than everyone else. We need to give everyone the opportunity to share. And finally, number 7, use I statements. It's easy to talk about the issues of others, but we want to share with each other. Try to use I statements rather than them, they, we, us, the church, etc. And this is going to take a while for us to get used to, because if you think about it, many times when we share what God's doing, we very rarely refer to ourselves. We talk about what God's doing in other people's lives, and we talk about the sins and problems of other people. This is not a time for us to focus on other people. This is a time for us to focus on what God's doing in our life. And so we need to avoid things such as they have a gossip problem or my old church used to gossip. And we need to fess up and say, I have sin. I gossip. I do this. I do that. Let's not worry about what our neighbor's doing. Let's focus on the plank in our own eye. And so I encourage you to be adding this to how you share as a leader. Refer to yourself and use yourself as an illustration. Well, that finishes up our conversation on guidelines that I want you to go over with every time you get together as you do your devotionals as a community group. This is going to end video 1. I'm going to be putting out another video that I will be sending you a link to very shortly, in which we will go over the actual outline of devotionals every week. There's a set outline that I would ask you guys to use every week, and it's important that we follow the steps, and I will explain why that's so important on the next video. Please keep this video in your archives in case you ever need to refer back to it. As always, I'm always available for coffee. Email me, Facebook me if you have any questions.